Take a listen at this response from Niger to the Beninese President Patrice Talon's recent explanation of why he blocked Niger's oil from being exported through the Beninese port of Seme, where the 2,000-kilometer pipeline that runs from Niger's Agadem basin meets the Atlantic Ocean. The response was delivered on May 11, 2024, by Niger's Prime Minister Ali Mahaman Lamine Zeine, who also doubles as the country's Minister of Economy, and he explains why Niger will keep its border with Benin closed, and also reveals the demands it wants Benin to fulfill before any opening of the border.
As you all know, we followed a statement a few days ago from the Beninese President, Mr. Talon. I would like in a completely respectful manner to tell our part of the truth on facts which are otherwise verifiable. I will of course leave our Nigerian compatriots, as well as the Beninese compatriots, to be free, as far as they are concerned, to form their own opinions, and consequently draw lessons from it, because we believe on our part and we are convinced that this is a new and important page, which opens a page in the history of our country, and also of our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 points on which it was important that we discuss this morning. First, the pipeline, that is to say, if we simplify the pipe, which brings Nigerian oil from Agadem to Seme, from its conception to its birth. This pipeline was, let's say, the regulatory provisions were taken to supervise its conception until its birth. There are more than 10 agreements that were signed, and I have here some that I will make available to the press. It is our pleasure, so that no incident or any occasion, or pretext prevents the objective for which it was created, from being able to be realized at the moment and coming future. I say more than 10 agreements, but all of these agreements have been violated by the Beninese authorities. I will read you just one passage. There was of course an agreement, a bilateral agreement between Benin and the UN, a bilateral agreement between the Chinese state and Benin, and even a tripartite agreement. I am just reading you a passage from the agreement of the host government, that is to say Benin, which signed it on August 5, 2019. Precisely, it says this. The Beninese state will not modify it, will cancel it, terminate it, will declare it invalid, or unenforceable, or will it seek to avoid or limit it in any other way. This is to say that in reality, this country has drafted provisions with its own hands, which do not allow it, in any case, to take the decision it is currently making, that is, to prevent Nigerian crude from flowing to the sea, and trade on the international market. It is very serious. It is a violation of the commitment we have here. Obviously, if you wish to consult all these documents, you will have the pages with the articles which bind this country. We have it, and between them and the Chinese state, through the state company. It's not a Chinese private company, it's a company owned by the Chinese state. You must have actually followed a few days ago when he launched a claim, saying that we approached the Beninese to negotiate the export of this crude by accepting the opening of our border. We of course denied this by first referring to the Chinese and the Beninese, and also by specifying that Niger, which has always respected its commitments, will strictly stick to this provision. There is a second point which of course now concerns security at our border. On this, I think that it will not occur to any Nigerian to accept that insecurity will spread on our land. We can never say it enough. Our president, General Abdourahmane Tiani, has always said that Niger will never attack anyone. We are known for our open-mindedness, for our hospitality, for our culture of peace, for the preservation of our cultural and religious values. No one has ever heard that Niger has attacked another country. But Niger has always given itself the means to defend itself with dignity. You will remember that this position developed by the highest Beninese authority, in reality, is not new. When in the absence of any legal basis, the institution to which we belonged, which is ECOWAS, had blindly taken irresponsible and punitive measures against our country. There are certain number of countries belonging to this organization which were behind us, which have shown themselves, I would say, in a hostile position. And I would even say I can weigh my word with Tiani, that this was completely unacceptable to us. Among these countries, there is of course Benin, through its president. Everyone saw him, how he called beyond the watertight closure of the border. He carried with him the message of the war that had to be waged against our country. If today we read the elements, the traces of this position, we should not be surprised. And in this, we had nonetheless decided to open the borders. It must be remembered that we have 7 borders. The only one that has been kept closed, which has been kept watertight, is the one with Benin. It must be said, even during the punishment period. But despite the opening or suspension of these punishments, which did not prevent our country from continuing to live, we have sovereignly decided to keep our border closed with Benin. Why? For a good and simple reason, that is, our former partners, who are the French. When Nigerians as a whole, behind our president, His Excellency General Tiani decided that these partners, who were not playing a fair game with us, should leave, you remember that they insisted that their exit door be Benin. We refused this, telling them that the only concession we wanted to make was for them to take the route of 1,500 kilometers and leave. That's what they did. We must salute their spirit of respect for others and of our people. No incident took place during the disengagement of French troops from our territory. There was a high-level meeting, where the head of state ordered that all populations along the route be made aware, to allow these troops to pass with their baggage, so that they leave our territories. And you shouldn't be mistaken, they traveled 1,500 kilometers and also went back to where they wanted. Where they wanted to go for the first time was on the territory of the Republic of Benin. Even in the declaration that we all followed, the president came to tell us that it would be ridiculous for us to think that Benin was amassing its troops with the support of other elements to invade Niger. It will never come to the mind of any Nigerian to believe that Benin would invade Niger. Never, and we have never said it. Moreover, what we have said is that on the territory of the Republic of Benin, there are bases, including some of them where they train terrorists who come to destabilize our country. These are for simple security reasons, reasons why we decided to keep this border closed, despite the historical and millennia-old links that we have with the Beninese people, who themselves we know do not agree with certain positions from their authority. The map where these bases are located shows exactly that there are 5 of them, including one where there are trainings to destabilize our country. They do it in the far east of the country. These are known and documented destabilization bases in the localities of Kandi Tower, Borgat, just to name but a few. This is not an imaginary view, it is a real view, based on documented elements. This is the reason why our country said that for the moment, we keep this border closed, until Benin decides to deal with this essential question. To return to the question of the pipeline, as you know, all the international rules say that you cannot prevent a landlocked country, that is to say a country which does not have access to the sea, from having this access. This is something on which we think that it is up to the Beninese to look at this situation, to analyze it, and as I say, a little more beautifully, to learn from it. Also, on the question of cereals, you must have followed him and heard him say that their cereal production is intended for Niger as first priority. First, Niger has never ordered for these cereals produced in Benin, and therefore, concerning the claim of income of the Beninese returning to our territories, it is fraud. Everything we've been doing since the 26th of July, and before, is fighting fraud. So, if the Beninese decide, that is Beninese producers, to try despite the closure of borders, to come and sell their products here, then good for them. We left them to do so because they are the same populations on both sides, and Niger is strictly not dependent on these imports. It must be said that, today, we have the evidence to prove it. It is a decision that Benin had to make, we respect it, and we take note of it, but we must not accuse Niger of being responsible for the increase in the prices of these cereals. Therefore, we respect the decision taken by Benin regarding these bans on entering our territory in the form of cereals. In conclusion, we say that this attitude of Benin, rather through the highest authority, unfortunately reminds us of a kind of desire to suffocate Niger, and that has not started today. Our wish is to listen to reason. I am making arrangements. Niger is ready to reopen its border once we will have the certainty that our territory is safe.
The fight we are waging today, the fight for sovereignty, the fight for dignity, with respect for others, is completely natural. We wanted to live in peace. We accused no one, we attacked no one. But we would not allow that, under the cover of a neighborhood or an accusation of not having lifted the closure measures, that we continue to be attacked. This is a decision that our government, the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Homeland, made for the sake of our people, a decision that we take for our own security, that's it. Today, if we know that on the territory of Benin, there are not these troops which I showed you, I assure you tomorrow morning, we will open the border. And for the rest, you will all witness what happens next. I would like to reiterate here, Niger's desire to protect its relations with China. China is a great partner, a friendly country. This oil adventure began in 2008 with China. Our duty is to protect precisely these relationships, which are in any case relationships that we would like to see free from all doubt. On this, I think that it is obviously up to them to ensure that this question is resolved very quickly. And then don't forget that Benin profits from this crude. That is, thousands of direct jobs for this infrastructure. This is tax revenue for the investment. Even if today we casually try to say that there is nothing, or that there is no impact. You know, President Talon made a decision, he is sovereign in his country. But the oil in question does not belong only to Niger. We must not forget that we have a partner who holds the biggest part. But even his own country will benefit from that, that's what I explained. There are tax revenues, there is work for the Beninese, and I don't think we're going to stop there. For the moment, Niger, which has always respected its commitments, will respect its commitments. And that's why we also told the Chinese side to take over the talks, and I think a solution will be found, that's my feeling. Now, for the question related to the bypass, remember that Niger has 7 borders. There are 6 minus Benin. Niger is used to experiencing situations of hardship and even punishment. It is on the basis of no text that our country was sanctioned. And Niger watched until the bearers of these unique, inhumane, and irresponsible decisions took the decision to say that they were going back on this. I do not want to dwell on political questions, but you will never be able to separate two peoples, like that of Benin and Niger.